This is the National Pro Cup Championship Crown Jewel of Late Model competition. You may notice that we are not in Bethesda Ring as originally scheduled. We are actually at the Sebring International Raceway for the FedEx Super Enduro 250. And the original distance was 300 miles, but race officials decided to shorten the distance a little bit. And after a feasibility test at the Bethesda Ring the week before the race was scheduled to go on, race officials decided that it was just not going to be possible to run at the Bethesda Ring, especially since they were hoping for a shorter configuration to be put into place. And so the race was moved to the 3.74 mile Sebring International Raceway, typically the site of sports car events. And now, here is your Pepsi Max starting grid for the FedEx Super Enduro 250. Starting on the inside of row number 15 is the number 51 of Isabel Messina, and on her outside is number 8 of Joshua Michaels, who had to serve a grid penalty. Starting on the inside of row number 14 is the 08 of Ray Takita for Olympic Racing, and on her outside is the number 64 of Oi Mitsushima for Messina Motorsports. On the inside of row number 13 is the Boulder Fist Racing Machine of Benny LaBouffe, and on his outside, the Michael Brown Racing number 99 of Roy Warren. On the inside of row number 12 is the 02 of Jennifer Duke for Costin Duke Racing, and on her outside is the number 7 of Brianna Princeton driving for Churchill Incorporated, making her debut today. On the inside of row 11 is her teammate Zach Churchill in the 84, and on his outside is the number 56 of Sean Johnson driving for Mike Howard Racing. On the inside of row number 10 is the number 15 of Gianni Corelli driving for Rossini Sport, and on his outside is the number 34 of Parker Witten driving for Michael Brown Racing. Starting on the inside of row number 9 is the number 66 of Nate Patrick, and on his outside is the number 04 of Betty Cox. On the inside of row number 8 is the number 13 of Aubrey Wood, and on her outside is the number 14 of Tristano Otello Monteleone. I think I got that correctly. Starting on the inside of row number 7 is the number 38 of Gabriel Messina, and on his outside is the number 16 of Star Banner driving for Power Steering Incorporated. On the inside of row number 6 is German driver Bridget DeSablin, and on her outside is the number 78 of Alexis Farr driving for YDM America. Starting on the inside of row number 5 is the number 24 of Valerie Forge, the winner at Seattle, and on her outside is the number 60 of Nick Van Gelder. Inside of row number 4 is the current championship leader, Zach Gott driving for Gravity Racing Incorporated. On his outside is the number 90 of Andrea Lynn Caldwell driving for Caldwell Midwest Racing. On the inside of row number 3 is the 58 of Sean Sanchez, and on his outside is the number 83 of Maki Takei, driving a one-off entry for Messina Motorsports. On the inside of row number 2 is the number 18 of Chuck Johnson, and on his outside is the number 28 of John Quackenbush, one of the favorites here today. On the inside of row number 1 is another one of the favorites today, the number 1 of Eric Drakerider for Saints Amazing Autosport, and taking the Pepsi Max Pole Award in a huge surprise is the number 75 of Angelina Hawk driving her own car. And here comes the field off of turn number 17. The green flag is out and the FedEx Super Enduro 250 is underway. Angelina Hawk gets a good run into turn 1 and she will pull in front of Drake Ryder and Chuck Johnson, a pair of road course veterans, as well as John Quackenbush running in the 4th position. Sean Sanchez currently runs in the number 5 spot as Hawk heads into turn number 3 with the lead. Here comes Drake Ryder on the inside of Chuck Johnson to try to claim the 2nd spot for himself as they come around the turn 5 and 6 complex. Very tricky racetrack this Sebring International Raceway is. You'll notice a new paint scheme on the number 28 car this week. That's because Surge Soft Drink has come on board to sponsor the number 28 team for the remainder of the 2014 season. Obviously very impressed with what Quackenbush has been able to do this season. His teammate, Zach Gott, came in as the championship leader, currently running in the 9th position at the moment, and he's under attack from Nick Van Gelder in the 60, but is able to hold him off for the moment. Gott finished 2nd here in the Arlo 20 Truck Series race last year. And here's Eric Drake Ryder in the number 1 at the end of lap number 1 and heading into turn 2. He has a run on Angelina Hawk for the lead of the race, and going into turn 3, he will take it. Watch out for Eric Drake Ryder today. He hasn't really done that well on the road courses so far this season, which is kind of surprising, but today he's looking to avenge himself on that front. Coming into the turn 7 complex, which has been Calamity Corner all weekend. Chuck Johnson goes for second, but oh, it looks like he gets into the number 75 Angelina Hawk, and off she goes. Let's take another look at that. Hawk gets loose, and she slides it off and into the tire barriers, and Sean Sanchez also goes off. Looked like on his own doing. The officials were certainly going to have a look at this one because it certainly looked like there was contact between the 18 and the 75, although it's kind of hard to tell from that angle whether or not there was contact. And Sanchez goes off as well. This is their best chance to look at it, and oh, I don't know if there was contact or not. The officials were certainly going to take a closer look at this throughout the rest of the race, but it's certainly, oh, that's a tough call. That's a pretty iffy call. That could go either way. The 58 is Sean Sanchez getting loose in turn 7 as well. Both Sanchez and Hawk would have to drop out of the race just 2 laps in. What a tough break for both of those drivers after stellar qualifying runs as a couple drivers get loose right there. In the meantime, Drake Ryder pulls out to a pretty decent lead, although Chuck Johnson trying to run him down from behind, and there's Quackenbush running in the 3rd position. And Valerie Forge up to the 4th spot after starting in 9th, so good run by her so far. Eric Drake Ryder looking to get his road course resume back on track here in the NPCC. Not exactly a stellar start as far as his road course racing goes. His first career win actually came on a short track of all things at Albuquerque earlier this season, but he's doing his road course resume pretty well right now. Here's a couple of Messina Motorsports teammates. That's Maki Takei in the number 83 and the team owner, Gabriel Messina, and the 38, both running in 9th and 10th right now. So good runs by both of those drivers, making their NPCC debut today. Both of these drivers will be competing in the Memorial 2014 at the Circuit of the Americas, a track that's pretty similar in difficulty to this one, although some drivers might say even more so. So they're doing a pretty good job here today. Another driver making her series debut is the number 40 of Bridget Dusublin, driving for her own team. Unlike Messina and Takei, Dusublin is planning on running all of the prestigious events, so you could say she's currently in the running for the prestigious Cobalt Shield. And the number 15 of Johnny Corelli off into the grass and turns 16, but gets it back on, but is going to lose several positions. Kind of hard to believe that he'd be at the back of the pack, especially today considering his road racing background. Number 84 of Zach Churchill, driving for Churchill Incorporated, has to pit for a flat tire, so tough break for the 84 team. Was running up inside the top 15 at the time, so tough break for him. But number 90 of Andrea Lynn Caldwell currently running in the 5th position until this happens. Her engine decides to go splody. Tough break for Caldwell, who actually came into today's race 10th in the point standings. But due to the fact that this is a double points event, this is going to really set her back in the championship. And as they're trying to navigate around the crippled 90 car, the 34 Parker Witten and the 7 of Brianna Princehorn get together. Parker Witten goes spinning to the grass and woohoo! Almost gets into his teammate. Very close call there for both of those guys. Caldwell would have to drop out of the race. And here's on board Chuck Johnson now as he trails the leader, Eric Drake Ryder. Johnson's had a pretty good season so far. He has 2 victories, one on a road course, one on an oval, and currently up there in the championship battle right now. Yo 4 Betty Cox also has to pit for a flat tire, much like Zach Churchill did a little bit earlier. So tough break for Betty Cox. Having a pretty decent run here today, but still a long race yet. This is a 67 lap race. Quackenbush gets a little bit loose in turn 7 and into the grass. And the 24 of Valerie Forge gets around him for the 3rd position. Quackenbush came into today's race 2nd in the point standings, while Forge came in the 15th position, so she's got some makeup work to do. And here's Scott getting a little bit loose in turn 16, and woo! Makes a little bit of contact with the 38 of Messina, and that's going to cause Scott to lose 2 positions to both Messina and to Sean Johnson, the 56, so that 71 car is not really handling all that well right now, as he slips back to 9th. As Aubrey Wood tries to come up and take the 9th position away. Oh, Messina gets a little bit wide in turn 17, and Gott tries to come back underneath to try to reclaim the 8th position from Messina. We're 10 laps into this event, and racing's been pretty good so far. And here's Joshua Michaels having to come down pit road also for a flat tire. Tough break for Joshua Michaels. He had to start at the rear of the field today due to a grid penalty he had at Seattle. And unfortunately, when he comes back out onto the track, he's right in front of the leaders and begins acting like a bit of a roadblock, especially to Drake Ryder, who loses the lead to Chuck Johnson in the Turn 7 complex, which is certainly going to be a little bit frustrating for Drake Ryder, but he catches right back up to Johnson, as Johnson is now being held up by Joshua Michaels. And coming into Turn 16, Drake Ryder would take advantage of that and reclaim the lead the very same lap. And Michaels continues to hold up Chuck Johnson in the 18, as Drake Ryder now manages to slip around and by both of them. And the officials would warn Joshua Michaels to please move over and let the 18 by. Coming into turn number 7 here on lap number 13. Oh, Aubrey Wood loses it in the number 13 car. Alan Gott gets loose and into the back of the 13, and the 14 of Montagnier also gets involved in this. But your championship leader starting today gets into trouble on lap number 13 as he gets right to the back of the 13 of Aubrey Wood. Nowhere for him to go. Wow. And the 14 also involved, couldn't really find a way around. Here it is again. At any event, this would be the end of the race for Monteleone and for Aubrey Wood. Tough break for both those drivers, having decent runs here today. Gott would continue on with damage, but his race is pretty much ruined as you see him coming down pit road for repairs. Came in today as the championship leader, hadn't finished outside the top 10 or did all season, but that's certainly going to change here today. One of the drivers that are certainly on the move right now is this number 24 car of Valerie Forge. And as you can see, the 8 is still holding out Chuck Johnson after being warned numerous times to let him by. Needless to say, the officials were not too pleased with Joshua Michaels for his impedance, and he would be called to the hauler for this. And he continues to hold up Chuck Johnson as Quackenbush has a run on him for the 3rd position. Really don't know what's going on over that number 18's radio, but I have to have a feeling that there are some expletives in his language right now, especially considering that he's now back to the 4th position and losing a lot of ground to the 3 drivers in front of him. The 71, on the other hand, tries to go wide to allow him to get by, but oh, the 18 goes off the track. Not exactly sure what happened there. We'll take a look at it here. Looks like Gott went wide to allow Johnson to get room, but it looked like Johnson got a little bit tight there and into the side of the 71, and off the track he goes. On board. Yeah, it looks like the 18 just got tight right there. That's kind of surprising. But into the wall he goes, which damages the right front. He keeps it going, but man, he's going to lose a lot of time now, which is certainly not what he wanted, considering he was a favorite here today. Here's a driver that's also impressing in her debut, Brianna Princehorn, and the number 7 for Churchill Incorporated, one of the only Inglesbys in the field today. Currently running in the 7th position, and she started all the way back in 24th place. So a very impressive run by Princehorn. And here's the 18 of Chuck Johnson coming down pit road. This is actually scheduled as we're approaching green flag pit stops here. Bridget DuSublin comes in the 40 car for her first pit stop of the day, as does Valerie Forge in the 24. Nick Van Gelder is in. Parker Witten and Maki Takei also onto the pit road, followed by Jennifer Duke in the 02. She's actually had a pretty decent run today. She's also followed by Nate Patrick and Isabel Messina. Takita, Cox, and Booth are into the pit lane next. Eric Drake Ryder pits from the lead of the race. Quackenbush from 3rd. And there's Sean Johnson and Star Banner in. Brianna Princehorn makes her pit stop. Gabriel Messina in for his, as well as Alexis Farr and Roy Warren. 15 of Gianni Corelli, one of the last to come down pit road, and Oi Mishishima, the last to complete the green flag set of pit stops. And as we complete 20 laps, Eric Drake Ryder continues to lead the way Very impressive showing so far by Drake Ryder, and he is currently up in the championship right now. Currently 4th in the championship behind Chuck Johnson, Quackenbush, and Gott. Here's Johnny Corelli in turn 7 as he loses it. Oh, the 66 gets into him, as well as the 02, sending all 3 for a loop. All 3 drivers would continue on, but will lose some time as the Messina Motorsports teammates of Mishishima and Isabella Messina gets around them. Here is Brianna Princehorn in the 7, currently running in the, well, she was running in the 8th position, but she got around Chuck Johnson, and now has a run on Nick Van Gelder in the 60. This would be for the 6th position, so very, very impressive debut by Brianna Princehorn. She's only planning on running this race and I believe Ohio. Whoa, she gets a little bit loose there in turns 3 and 4 and into turn number 5. And Nick Van Gelder will be able to hold off at least for the time being. And Chuck Johnson tries to come back on Princehorn. He's lost a lot of time. He's back to the 8th position. And they're side by side. Princehorn's not going to give it up, though. This is a very tough battle right here as they head into this right-hander. Whoa, Nick Van Gelder getting a little bit loose there. And Princehorn still side by side with Johnson as they come into the next complex, turns 14, 15, and 16. Oh, it looks like Princehorn's going to be able to hold him off, though. Corelli getting way loose in turn 7 and into the tire barriers he goes. This one will put Gianni Corelli out of today's race. Tough break for the young Italian driver. At the end of lap number 27, Drake Ryder continues to lead, but as you can see, that 24 of Valerie Forge, the Lycoya for Power Steering Incorporated, has caught up to him. Valerie Forge, easily the fastest car on the track right now. She started all the way back in the 9th position, and after winning at Seattle, boy, she's really lit a fire under that team, and they're doing a superb job here today as she tries to go for the lead here on Drake Ryder. Bit of a surprise, though, considering Drake Ryder's background as opposed to Forge's. But Forge, clearly with the superior car right now, has a run on him down the backstretch heading into turn 17 for the lead of the race. And coming into turn number 16, Forge will clear the number 1 car for the lead as Drake Ryder drops back to 2nd. As they come around turn number 17, Forge now has the advantage, and she takes the lead for the first time today, gaining an all-valuable bonus point towards the championship. Well, actually, it's 2 bonus points, considering that today's race is a double points event. So Valerie Forge looking really strong here today, especially after her tremendous victory at Seattle a couple weeks ago. Here is Sean Johnson and Brianna Princehorn battling for position here as they head into turns 15, 16. They're side by side, and Princehorn will take the spot away from Sean Johnson. So Princehorn continuing to impress in that Inglesby. Very impressive debut by her, and Sean Johnson drops back a little bit, but still remains in the top 10. As we hit the halfway point, Valerie Forge continues to lead the way, and she's really opened up the lead on the number 1 of Eric Drake Ryder, now up to almost 8 seconds. Very impressive run by the 24 Valerie Forge here today as she looks for a 2nd consecutive victory, and this one would be even bigger considering it's a double points event as she comes in for her 2nd pit stop of the day. Eric Drake Ryder follows suit, follows the looks like the 08 of Ray Takita in as well. And at the end of green flag pit stops, Forge continues to lead the way and is continuing to stretch her advantage over the rest of the field. Here's the 04 Betty Cox in the turn 7 complex as she loses it. And coming in, oh, Messina into the back rear, and this is right in front of the leader as well. Boy, I don't know what Messina was thinking right there. She had plenty of time to react, and I guess she was just being a little bit indecisive there in turn 7. But right into the back of the 04, and that damage is pretty significant, and in fact Messina would have to drop from the race. Coming into the last round of pit stops here on lap number 52, Valerie Forge pits from the lead of the race. Eric Drake Ryder would come in the number 2 spot, still behind that 08 car of Ray Takita. And at the end of the green flag pit stops, Forge continues to lead the way and has a pretty sizable advantage. It's looking like a victory is assured for the 24, but again, anything can happen. She has a 31-second advantage over Eric Drake Rider right now. And here's the 40 of Bridget Dusublin. Her engine goes, closing in on 10 laps to go, running inside the top 15. What a tough break for Dusublin, who had a pretty decent showing today. Pretty much stayed out of trouble all day. Here's Chuck Johnson in the closing laps of the race. He's in 7th position, but he has a run on Alexis Farr in the 78 for the number 6 position. So Johnson's certainly starting to look like he did earlier in the race, but of course was held up by Joshua Michaels and lost a lot of time. And of course had that incident with Zach Gott, although that was deemed as a racing incident. But he now has a run on Sean Johnson in the 56 down the backstretch into turn number 17. And he will take over the number 5 spot from Sean Johnson. So strong comeback by Chuck Johnson here in the number 18 car. And now we come to the white flag on board with John Quackenbush in the new Surge machine. And right up in front of him is the 2nd place driver, Eric Drake Rider. He is, well, a good friend of his off the track, but a fierce rival on the track. And he is closing in on him for the number 2 spot. And as you can see, he's being held up big time by a pair of lap cars. He manages to get around one of them. But Quackenbush coming down the backstretch for the final time. He has a run on Drake Rider, and he makes the move heading into turn 17 for 2nd. But no, Drake Rider cuts him off. Quackenbush might have one last opportunity coming out of 17, but it looks like it's not going to be enough. Drake Rider will be able to hold off Quackenbush for the 2nd spot. Coming to the checkered flag, Quackenbush finishes 3rd. Drake Rider finishes 2nd. But it's all about this driver who's on a roll right now after her stellar victory in Seattle. She comes back here to the Sebring International Raceway and takes her 2nd consecutive victory. She wins the FedEx Super Enduro 250 at Sebring. And due to the fact that this is a double points event, she earns a whopping 108 points here today. Drake Rider comes home in 2nd place, Quackenbush in 3rd, which certainly bolsters his Ultimatum Cup standing as well. Brianna Princehorn, 4th place today on her debut after starting 24th. Very impressive run by Princehorn. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if she tried to convince her team to run the rest of the prestigious events. Chuck Johnson in 5th, great run today. Sean Johnson, Gabriel Messina, Maki Takei, a couple of one-offs, 7th and 8th, nice runs by them. Nick Van Gelder comes home in 9th, and Roy Warren comes home in the number 10 spot. As for 11th through 20, Alexis Farr, her car kind of fell off at the end of the race. She fell back to 11th, Oi Mishishima in 12th, Nate Patrick 13th. Some of these drivers we really didn't talk about a lot today. Parker Witten in 15th after his had some troubles today. Zach Churchill, flat tire early on, was never really able to recover. Ray Takita, Jennifer Duke, Star Banner, finishing in 19th. Not exactly a good run for her today after some stellar runs previously. And Vinny LaBouffe in the number 2 car comes home in the 20th position today. Could have been better for him, but I'm pretty sure he'll take it. And as for 21st through 30th, Zach Gott in the 71. First bad run he's had all season, and it was due to an incident that wasn't really of his own doing. Joshua Michaels comes home in 22nd, but he had been called to the hauler, so he might get another grid penalty for South Boston, and that would mean 10 more demerit points on his record, so that's not exactly good news. And Joshua Michaels was the last one to come across the line. The rest of the drivers failed to finish. Dusublin, Isabel Messina, Johnny Corelli, Tristano, Otello Monteleone, Aubrey Wood, Andrea Lynn Caldwell, Angela Hawk, and Sean Sanchez round up the field. Hawk still gets 4 points because she did lead a lap and was the pole sitter. And now, here are the Cobalt Shield standings after 1 of 4 races, pretty much mirroring the results from today. Valerie Forge starts out as the points leader. You might notice the wild gaps. Remember, this is a double points type of deal, so it's not as far apart as you might think. So Forge leads the way in the Cobalt Shield. As for the Ultimatum Cup, after 3 of 9 races, Quackenbush extends his hold on the championship. Chuck Johnson is second, but is now 34 points back. Forge vaults all the way up to third with her victory today, but is still 50 points out. Drake Ryder fourth, Sean Johnson fifth, Nate Patrick sixth, Scott seventh, Warren eighth, Mishishima ninth, and Nick Van Gelder in 10th, 99 points behind Quackenbush. And now, the overall championship. After 6 of 24 races, we have a new championship leader, and that is the number 28 of John Quackenbush with 236 points. And look who's running in second, his old rival, Eric Drake Ryder, just 7 points back. So it looks like the old rivalry between the ISCA mates has been renewed here in the NPCC. Chuck Johnson is third, Valerie Forge all the way up to fourth in the championship. The next race for the National Pro Cup Championship is the Surplus Parts 100 at the South Boston Speedway. Thank you for joining us today. I'm color commentator John Lyondike, and we'll see you next time.